I'm Randy West, and I'm here with Coralie Day, and we're going to talk to you today about an exciting program coming up in the very near future, going to be held at the Fairfield Auditorium, at the Fairfield High School Auditorium, on November 19th and 20th. It's a performance called Opening Night. It's a tribute to Broadway, and it's supporting the Jefferson County Civic Center. And Coralie is on the Jefferson County Civic Center committee that really is the driving force between making sure that we end up having a civic center in the near future. And she was really the reason that I eventually got involved in the project. But why don't you talk a little bit about the Civic Center?
Okay. So I've been on the Civic Center board for 7 years. It's been in existence for 8 years. And we have been so busy working with a great group of people. We've gone through so many different phases, the design phase and all these things. We interviewed people from all over the community, people like yourself, business people, to find out what Fairfield really wanted for their civic center. And we came up with a few basic things like a 520-seat auditorium, a 12,000 square foot exhibition hall that could be used for workshops, trade fairs, craft fairs, quilt shows, just you name it. And then a large lobby that would also be used as an art gallery. And then an outside pavilion area for some outdoor performances. And after we got all of this input from community members, then we went to some architects, great firm in Denver, Colorado, architectural workshop. And we've gone through all different types of designs and plans, and we're working with a plan right now, and we're in what's called the value engineering stage, where we're trying to make the numbers work.
You mean the numbers that you projected you're going to pay for it
yes,
coincide with what it's actually going to cost?
And the money we've brought in so far, which is about a little over $3 million in pledges from businesses, private individuals, charitable institutions, which is fantastic, and especially for a community this size. And then $1.4 million from the city, which is that local sales option tax from the law center that got paid off early, so on and so forth. And then also the $800,000 from the state, from the CAT grant, which is the Vision Iowa funds. So we're trying to make what we've got work. And what's happened is, you've probably heard, the price of steel has gone up.
The price of steel is getting to you.
Yes. So that's a problem, and then another couple $100,000 with some mechanical upgrades and things like that. So we are definitely still in the fundraising stage, and we would like to build the building of our dreams, a building that all of the community can be very proud of, and we would now, having gone through what we're going through with your performance, we know how much Fairfield really needs this kind of a facility.
Well, that's true on a lot of different levels. I mean, on the more positive side, I think we found that for a town our size, Fairfield is blessed with many, many talented people.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
And that's not just performing arts. All through the creative arts. I think that we have a higher percentage of people that do everything from graphics to oil painting to all kinds of creative sculpture. If you go to the art walks, you're just blown away with the level of, and not only the level, but the eclecticness of the different types of art that's done here.
Right.
But we're also uniquely, I think, blessed with many people in the performing arts that have a lot of talent.
Yes.
And this, and it's not just us. Right now, we're opening in a week, but there's Once Upon a Mattress that's also playing in town, and the
Princess Plays.
The Princess Plays had just finished at Jenny Lee's project.
Actually, it's still going on.
One more weekend, one more
yes.
weekend. This weekend, if this is playing. Next weekend is the 19th and 20th, which is when we're playing. And then the All-State program for music is unfortunately the same weekend we are. But so there's enough talent to really populate all these different areas in the performing arts and still deliver an end product that I think at least meets and most of the time way exceeds the expectation of an audience.
Yes. So tell everyone about what we're going to present for them.
Sure. When Coralie came to me, she said, would you do something that would be a fundraiser on behalf of the Jefferson County Civic Center. And I said I'd love to, but in a perfect world, I'd like to do something that maybe is a little more formalized than what I've seen done as fundraisers in the past in Fairfield. And Fairfield is a great town for fundraisers. I mean, everybody turns out and everybody volunteers their time and their effort to perform in them. And believe me, I'm somebody who's happy to participate in those type of events. I think they're important. But because this was for the Civic Center, and one of the reasons for having a Civic Center is to make a space available to really showcase local talent, to take an evening and really create something that is thematically held together was something that I wanted to try to do. So I wanted to put together an evening that saluted musical theater, and more specifically American musical theater, even though there is a little bit of British stuff in there because you wouldn't dare avoid Webber, Andrew Lloyd Webber altogether, or people would scream and yell at you. So there is some Webber in there, but the vast majority of the evening is really saluting American musical theater. And most people will tell you that jazz and musical theater are two of the very few art forms that really America can claim as their own. And so an evening saluting musical theater sounded like something that would be fun for me to start to put together. And so we put together a group of about 35 Fairfield adults. Now adult, in all fairness, goes from about 14 to my age and beyond, with a lot of high school people, and then college people, and then regular aged, Randy aged people. And then we have a children's ensemble that starts at 7 years and goes up to about 13. We have a little crossover kind of between the 13 and 14. I think most of the girls at the 13 age went down, and most of the boys at the 13 to 14 it went up.
I noticed that when I was doing the program today. I was wondering about that.
So it really wasn't by, we didn't do it as a division by grade.
Right.
We literally at that level, when they auditioned, I said, well, would you rather be with the younger people or with the older people?
Okay.
The older people also had to take on a much heavier rehearsal schedule.
Okay.
So if you wanted to rehearse less and you wanted to do, well, it's less material, but it's also more manageable in a way. Some of the middle school girls decided to go down into the smaller group, and the kids are in fact the smaller group. It's only about 15. And then I looked around in Fairfield, and with so much going on, ended up actually going out of town to Justin Hill. Justin is a musical director that I knew basically because his mother works at Hawthorne, which is where I work. And he had become aware of me, and I'd gone out and staged a couple of numbers for musicals that Justin was working on around Iowa. And when this came up, literally at one point I was just contacting him to see if he had some reference, some people he could push me toward, because I assumed that commuting all the way in, it's about a 45, 50-minute commute in for him to rehearsals, and I just assumed he wouldn't do that.
Right.
And in the middle of exchanging emails, I said, well, Justin, is there any chance that you'd actually want to do this? And he wrote back and said, well, sure, I didn't know if you wanted me to do it. And I said, well, yeah, I just assumed that driving, because it's for he and I, it's been a lot of rehearsals.
Yes.
And Justin not only took on teaching the music, we collaborated together on the selection of the music, and then Justin has orchestrated most of the music, and we are doing this with a 14-piece orchestra, so that's a little different. Many of the performances in Fairfield exist with a combo, which would be piano, bass, percussion, maybe a couple color instruments. But we really wanted to try to get a string section, and really because the evening moves through such an eclectic variety of music that the Rodgers and Hammerstein music tends to be a little more string oriented and a little and also the Lerner Loewe, and then when we move up into doing more things that are a little more pop.
Right.
That they tend to be a little bit more into brass, and so we are simulating an orchestra, and then we can also simulate the sound of more of a pit band.
I see.
And in the course of the evening, we do a full Rodgers. It's actually a Richard Rodgers medley because we do some songs that have lyrics by Lorenz Hart from the Rodgers and Hart musicals, and then we also do some Rodgers and Hammerstein, which are probably the better known of the more contemporary Rodgers and Hammerstein body of work. But we also do Lerner Loewe, which is selections from My Fair Lady and Paint Your Wagon, and what's the third Lerner Loewe show? Oh, Camelot.
Okay.
And we open with another show, which is from Kiss Me Kate. It actually opens Kiss Me Kate, which is a Cole Porter musical. And then we close the first act with One More Day, which
Yes,
is the
I'm very excited about that.
the big number that closes the first act of
Yeah.
Les Misérables. And that's a hard number to do because it has, I think, 7 soloists plus a
Wow.
full ensemble. Plus, if you really want to get the oomph of it, you got to have the orchestra that really kind of adds to that. And yet, it really is. It's one of those pieces that's written so well that it really is about the emotion of the moment and the singers. And I think that we're really kind of recreating that moment. Then we open the second act with Seasons of Love, which is from Rent, which is obviously very contemporary.
Right.
And in the second act, we also have a big Sondheim medley, and we have to do that because
You're friends with Stephen Sondheim.
I was very
right?
lucky to
Yes.
actually work with Steve
Yes.
Sondheim, and worked with on 6 months rewriting with he and George Firth, Merrily We Roll Along, their musical, and then directed the pre-Broadway workshop productions of that. And that kind of launched my career up. At the time, I was the theater coordinator for the city of Phoenix. When I caught the Sondheim project, and it was Steve that suggested I move to San Francisco, and then not only did I move to San Francisco, but he called theaters there and basically said, I'm sending you a director, you should use him. And so I owe Sondheim a lot for really kicking my career up.
Oh, so we've got a lot of Sondheim.
Yeah. So
Next weekend.
we do have a little section of Sondheim. We touch on numbers from Funny Thing Happened on the Way to the Forum, and we do a number from Sunday in the Park with George, which is actually Putting It Together, which is kind of a famous number that Barbra Streisand recorded.
Oh, okay.
And then we do numbers from Follies and Into the Woods, and then we do a whole section from Company,
Oh, okay.
which is kind of one of his better known musicals. I think we have one song from Sweeney Todd, but it's kind of an eclectic mix of Sondheim. And then in the second act, we also do a Godspell medley, which is kind of pop rock, the Stephen Schwartz musical. And basically, it's kind of interesting. Stephen Schwartz, that was the first show that he ever did on Broadway. And then he came back and he did Pippin. And he wrote Pippin, and it was kind of like Godspell, this kind of sweet little kind of religious piece.
Oh.
And then they brought in Bob Fosse, who completely redid Pippin and made it kind of more into the kind of sensual Bob Fosse show that we think of with like Cabaret
Sure.
or Chicago. Well, it so overwhelmed Stephen Schwartz that what Fosse did to Pippin that it actually put Schwartz into a hospital for a while. He actually checked out for a while, and so he wasn't. He came back and did the Mad Show, which was actually with the magician
Doug Henny,
who's really well known in Fairfield. But he really didn't find his way back onto Broadway in a big way. And then you thought that maybe he was done. And then he came back and he wrote Pocahontas for Disney.
Wow.
And he wrote the extra lyrics to Beauty and the Beast.
Wow.
And then he came back and he did, what's his most recent one for... he wrote the Prince of Egypt for DreamWorks.
Wow.
And so he found some real success in the animated world, and everybody thought, well, he's just never coming back to Broadway.
Right.
And 2 years ago, he wrote Wicked, which is
I haven't
the
seen
adaptation
that.
of, it's a retelling of the story of Glinda the Good Witch and the Wicked Witch of the West. So it's really kind of telling the Wizard of Oz story, but from a completely different perspective. I mean, Dorothy appears and the Scarecrow and the Tin Man and the Cowardly Lion, but they're actually very small roles. In the two witches are the biggest roles, and the wizard is kind of important.
Well, it'll be fun to hear that music.
And we're doing kind of with the two women, the Good Witch and the Bad Witch. We have the duet when they meet.
And who plays those?
We actually have Diana Upton Hill and my beloved Margaret Clare
Oh, good.
is singing the Wicked Witch of the West.
Oh, great.
Which I must say is not typecasting, honey. But so we do the duet when they first meet, and then they go through this whole story together. And at the end, they're definitively different, but they basically sing this song about the fact that they've learned to be who they are from the other person. So it's kind of this resolution song. So it kind of at least gives you the flavor of the whole path that these two characters take.
Right.
And it's very exciting vocal music. It's a little bit like American Idol, where it kind of has the kind of vocal gymnastics in it that I think will be really fun for people to hear.
Okay.
And then we're doing we are doing a Beauty and the Beast selection, a couple songs from Beauty and the Beast.
Okay.
And then we I was putting this together, and somebody mentioned you didn't forget Meredith Willson, did
Oh,
you?
dear.
Who is
No,
Iowa's composer
no, we can't do that.
of musical theater. I said, heavens no. And so we do 76 trombones
okay.
from the Music Man.
That's finale?
Well, yes, we do. We go from 76 trombones into Don't Rain on My Parade, which is from Funny Girl, and then we do Before the Parade Passes By from Dolly.
Oh, okay.
And we do Hello, Dolly from Dolly.
Of course.
And I should mention, because the girls will never forgive me, that we do Because of Chicago. Yes.
Chicago.
We do the number All That Jazz and Razzle Dazzle from Chicago, and we do that in a Fosse-style.
And we should mention about the ladies, the adult ladies deciding they didn't want to do it after they saw the high school age girls, right?
Bless their hearts. It was open to, it was optional, and so the women came in, and all the women started to learn it. And about, I would say, about halfway through the rehearsal, all the women that were probably above the age 25 all said, "We'll just sing." And so it does feature kind of our 25 and younger females. But that's another interesting thing. I mentioned that we're trying to create music that doesn't sound all alike, because I think American music and American musical theater really has developed in many different ways. What did I just about do? And we're doing an Andrew Lloyd Webber section. See, it's the Sondheim thing in me. I just can't quite go to that Webber thing. We are doing numbers from Phantom of the Opera. We're doing a number from Evita, and we're doing a number from Joseph and the Amazing Technicolor Dreamcoat. So we've covered the Webber thing with some fun things that I think people will recognize.
And the Joseph one with the kids chorus is going to be fabulous.
And we're doing two numbers from Phantom, the two of the duets, and then Margaret is doing Buenos Aires, which is a great fun number from Evita.
Yes.
So we are doing the Webber thing. But one of the things I was saying is, in the music, we're doing different musical styles all evening. But I've tried, to some extent, to also move through different looks and different dance styles, so that, you know, certainly dance has changed and evolved as musical theater has evolved, and so we're not dancing everything. I mean, it got to the point where the ensemble was saying, "Are you really going to block everything?" And I said, "No, we'll take some time, so you just come up to the mic and stand and sing."
I heard about this.
But I think you'll get a sense that there really is a physical element to the show, that there's movement, that you get some kind of a feel for what the production would have felt like if you'd watched it. So it isn't a choral concert. It really is something that is recreating the flavor of Broadway.
Wow. We are so lucky to have you here in Fairfield and willing to take this huge project on. We're really lucky.
Well, I can tell you that a couple of things, putting this together, many times when I've worked for a theater that hires me to come in and do work for them, that they have a whole structure that supports creating whatever it is I'm hired to direct. And we really haven't had that. I mean, we really had to turn to individuals and just say, "Will you volunteer to come in and do this?"
So many volunteers. It's amazing.
And it's been so rich, and it's been very rare that somebody hasn't said, "Yes, I'll do that, and is there anything else I can do to help?"
Wow.
And that's across the board. I mean, certainly the people that are performing in the show have put in, I think, the amount of rehearsals. I think most of them thought initially it would kind of be learn a couple songs, and when they really figured out that they really had to learn a couple songs and then learn how to sing and dance songs, and it really, the body of work was a little bigger than some people thought. And they completely committed to that. And they've actually been asking for and getting extra rehearsals beyond the rehearsal schedule. The fact that Justin was able to find all these people that are playing in the orchestra play professionally. They play all over Iowa. And we did start in Fairfield and took as many Fairfield people as were available, but then we had to augment that because we wanted to get a bigger orchestra. And all these people are basically working for gas stipends, that none of them are getting paid what they would really be paid to play elsewhere as their donation toward the Civic Center.
Which is really nice, because they're not even from this area, a lot of them.
I think they think that, you know, if the Civic Center catches on, it'll be another place that will feature you know, instrumentalists, really quality instrumentalists, just like it'll kind of showcase quality everything. But that is nice. But across the boards, I mean, in terms of going to local businesses and saying, boy, we're finding out that we can't get an all-volunteer orchestra. Is there anybody that would help pay for, underwrite the orchestra? I think almost everybody we went to said yes. And I know, because at Hawthorne, we think of ourselves as a pretty community-oriented company, but you get asked in Fairfield a lot. I mean, you get,
you do.
well, at everybody's. I mean,
yes.
everybody comes into everybody's and says, well, we're doing this and we're doing that and we're doing this. And so I was a little nervous that everybody would be a little already having given out.
Right, exactly.
And yet, everybody that I talk to, and most everybody that I ask to go talk to people, I think first of all, I think the idea of the Civic Center has a lot of people just really excited.
It really does.
Yeah.
It really does. I mean, I found that with like the graphic artist George Foster, just immediately yes, and then I got Corey Pullman on board, and then Denise Rush. They really want to see this happen.
Well, and we should mention that another kind of interesting thing is that besides the performers in the evening, we do have the Frannibals, which Fran Horline, one of my favorite people in Fairfield. I was brought in to shoot some video production where she was working with these really creative puppets.
Yes.
I mean, they're kind of a cross between a puppet and a muppet somewhere, much as we can't probably say that M word, but because they aren't, they're her own creation, but they're big, fun things. And when I found out that I was going to do this, I said, well, we're going to be doing an evening celebrating musical theater, and I'm going to have a certain amount of narration. Is there any chance that maybe some of the Frannibals would want to show up and just kind of have fun with us?
Right.
And Fran absolutely jumped all over it, said absolutely, as soon as you get a script, send me a script. I've met with the Frannibals a couple of times so far.
This is good.
And yeah, that's good. And
I wasn't sure if they had been rehearsing.
Yeah, and I think they're going to do some fun stuff.
Okay.
But also, the people that the Frannibals interact with, rather than having a host for the entire performance, we decided it would be fun to have multiple hosts that kind of represented the community. Now, Ed Malloy, our mayor, certainly jumped right on board and said, I'd love to help. And so Ed is kind of the main host in the evening performance.
He opens things,
the show.
Right?
And but then afterwards we have, we actually originally we were desperately trying to find 4 hosts to go with Ed.
Right.
And so I met with your committee and we sent out a request saying who would be willing to host.
Yeah.
Well, we got back so many.
So many people, and they were honored to get to participate in this.
That we actually have we have a different set of hosts for every performance?
Yes,
so
yes.
every performance there'll be a different group of people coming out to speak about the Civic Center and then introduce the next composer. So that's kind of a fun, that's another area where what we assumed, we were going to be kind of imposing on people to give up an evening and come out, and they have to rehearse some and get ready to do this. And we also really wanted to get a mix of people. We didn't necessarily want to just draw on the same people that do this all the time. And you guys, the committee, put together a list, and I was just amazed that almost everybody that's in town that weekend said absolutely.
Yeah.
So that's another fun element, I think.
Yeah. We'll see what happens if the Trojans win on Monday, right? They play again, I think, either Friday or Saturday. So
well, of course they do.
Whoever we have for hosts, yes, they will be playing, I'm sure. So, but anyways, it'll all work out.
Of course it will. So now I'm competing against the All-State music thing and maybe a playoff football game. It's okay. It's a big hall. It'd be nice to have lots of people in it. So,
and we are very grateful to Fairfield High School Auditorium and Brad Rose and Tracy Hill for being so accommodating and helping us with all our arrangements and all our rehearsals and the whole lighting thing. So we're really appreciative.
They've been truly wonderful.
And Jim Edgton too with the music department. So
we should just say that this is we're doing opening night, which is a tribute to Broadway.
Yes.
And we're going on November 19th, which is next Friday at 8 o'clock. And then Saturday at 8 o'clock. And then also on the 20th, we have a 2 o'clock matinee. And it's 35 adults, 15 kids, 14-piece orchestra, all doing hits from Broadway. The tickets are $10 for adults,
$5 for children 12 and under. And the tickets are available at 3 places: the At Home Store on the square, Kim's Cottage on the square, and the Chamber of Commerce. And if you have a large group you'd like to get group ticket sales for, you can call the Chamber of Commerce.
And you can buy tickets at the door.
At the door, right. And we also want to thank the Kiwanis for taking on the whole concession.
My Kiwani buds.
Your
My Kiwanian buds are going to run the concessions.
Yes.
And just thanks to everybody in Fairfield for making something like this happen. I think it's going to be fun. It should be unique, and we really hope that a whole bunch of the community comes out and supports us. So just come out and have a fun night watching musical theater.
Sounds great. Can't wait.
I think we've done it.
Yeah.
We're done. Fade to black.